Can you start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background?
Excellent. Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Svet. I'm a designer by trade. I have over 17 years of experience both in the consultancy world as well as working with B2B and B2C organizations. And I decided to join the SVP program to polish my job searching skills.
That's amazing. You're so modest. You're like, I'm a designer by trade. You're a design leader.
I start with the core. They can find the rest.
All right. So tell me a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that you were facing before you discovered the program.
Sure. One of the biggest challenges given the current economic market was I would apply very strategically to opportunities, but I would not be hearing back in terms of first round interviews. And I wanted to find out, A, why that was, and B, what can I do to actually remedy this and get high percentage of first round interviews. That was the biggest challenge. The second challenge, if I had to pick a second one, was trying to find effective means of networking with people, both on LinkedIn and in real life, to expand my network of contacts and therefore increase my opportunities and chances of landing my next best gig.
Got it. That makes sense. Considering the market condition, that's definitely something that we hear a lot, right? You're not the only one.
A lot of saturation. And this is true for anybody in technology right now. Designers,
Totally.
engineers, product people.
Yeah. There's an article that came out today from Business Insider. It says that right now, finding a good job in tech is statistically harder compared to getting into Harvard.
Yeah, I saw that. And I think that was follow up to an earlier post that they had, which was like the percentage of the total jobs being ghost jobs.
Yeah. And also the whole excuse of layoffs being AI. There was another wave of this report as well.
Nah, they're just freeing capital to invest in AI because they got to figure out ways to justify the expenditure. I mean, OpenAI alone is spending $1 trillion in deals. Where that money?
Yeah. Totally. Remind me, how long were you searching before you joined the program?
So I started soft searching, basically testing out the waters in the market in April. And in June, I experienced a layoff and paused my job search. So I would argue that was like a total of maybe 2 months before I decided to make a pivot and find if there are any better strategies for me to apply to.
What made you choose this program over other options? Because you're very knowledgeable in this space in terms of what kind of help you could be getting. And so tell me a bit about that process in terms of what you found, what you've tried, and then how you ultimately made the decision to join this program.
Yeah, no, for sure. There were several key factors. As you mentioned, I did research other organizations and companies offering similar services. And there were actually several reasons why I specifically chose the SVP. One of the reasons was there is a component that's purely focusing on design, which is the portfolio review. Second reason, and I'll name a few here, is all of the coaches, based on my research prior to joining, have hands-on experience doing what they were claiming to be doing, whether that's reviewing resumes, providing feedback on various approaches for the portfolio, or such as yourself, providing coaching on interview best practices and negotiation. The third reason, and I think that's one of the critical reasons why I joined, was during the process and working with some of the intake people, such as Rain and Nate, I didn't feel like a push to be sold on the services. There wasn't like, let's close the deal type of mentality, but instead it was very customized to me as an individual, as also a potential candidate for the program. I worked very directly with Nate, and he was able to build a very solid foundation, a relationship based on information and trust rather than feeling very transactional. And honestly, I really enjoyed that type of approach where he was there to answer questions, but also showed very unique interest in my situation, my needs. And he was able to answer questions both for me and for my partner, which I think was critical for me making the decision to join.
Yeah. Did you look at some other options as well out there? I don't mean just like other coaches, but any other options like free resources, YouTube clips. I'm sure there's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah, I mean, if you go on LinkedIn, every second post is like, these are the 5 things you need to do to make sure your resume is getting a lot of views. Honestly, I've been collecting resources for the past few years. I have a running document of links to LinkedIn posts, to videos on YouTube, on anything from how to improve your resume to tactics for how to better handle yourself in interviews. And I think there are a lot of good nuggets of information, specifically on tactics to approach various topics, but no overarching framework that ties everything together into this is what you need to do first, second, third, so that you have the outcomes that you desire.
That makes a lot of sense. You're very systematic. So what got you from that point of collecting all the available resources out there, doing very thorough research, to the conclusion of, I have all these points, but I don't actually know how it's meaningfully connect together to an overall working strategy. And therefore, I need someone. What was that process to get to those stages?
So that's a very good question. And I was looking at all the pieces of information and resources that I have, and I obviously running various A/B tests between April and June of 2025, just to see what works, what doesn't. And I very quickly came to the conclusion that the market is now what it used to be 2 years ago. In 2023, it was very easy to get round one in interviews. Again, granted, the economics were a lot different. So my conclusion was the market has changed, and I have not kept up with the market in terms of the overall tactics and approaches. And understanding that gap in my understanding of the overall situation really provided me with the impetus to look for someone who specializes in that, aka a coach or coaches that live this day in, day out, that can provide up-to-date practices, contextual information, as well as hands-on advice.
That makes a lot of sense. Was there any hopes or considerations of maybe if I keep doing it on my own, somehow it's going to work out?
No, what is that saying? You're crazy thinking that if you're applying the same inputs will affect different outcomes.
Yeah, Einstein.
I was never under the impression that whatever I was trying would succeed long term. I networked pretty heavily. I did manage to get one full round of interviews, mind you, with a referral, just to find out that particular place was not a good fit for me. So with that realization, I wanted to find out what else can I do. Is it some of the learnings here, recording video cover letters with Loom, or is it structuring my resume using the PST model, which has been immensely helpful.
You already answered my next question. So anything that you want to add to what you already said?
I would actually point to one encompassing problem. That was the story that I was telling of who I am as a professional. I had a specific business positioning in terms of how I carry myself as a professional within the marketplace. However, I was not telling that story in many of my assets. That was the resume, the portfolio. What the program really helped me was, specifically on the resume, I'll give you a very concrete example. I worked with John, and he was able to tell me, you have a lot of experience. You have to focus the message that you're trying to drive with your portfolio so that people actually can consume said message. And that was a very critical takeaway, because I had stuff in my portfolio with a lot of good examples, but I was getting the audience lost in all that good content. So I had to really be razor focused on prioritizing what made the most sense. Based on that same problem, working with UQ on the business positioning and working with some of the other coaches on translating that to a refined resume, as well as improved LinkedIn profile, was very helpful in terms of creating that unified message that I wanted to bring to prospective employers.
Definitely. And I think it's never just one thing. What I hear a lot is that overarching story, either how to tell it, but also the step before that to understand what value you bring to the organization, who you are, how impressive you are, and what you can bring to the table. I feel like a lot of clients who come in, they don't actually have that clear understanding. They list like all their achievements, but they don't actually have that genuine understanding or belief around it. So when they start talking, it's not clear.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. There seems to be three pieces that are working: knowing skills you bring to the table, being able to articulate it's the same with various assets, and then the third and most important piece is once you have your assets and you have the message ironed out, taking all that and bringing it as a cohesive conversation in interviews.
100%. How has being part of this program impacted your confidence or mindset?
Okay, let's think about that. Confidence, it has not impacted my confidence because my confidence is pretty high, as you know. And
As expected, the answer.
yeah, I back it up with facts and experience. I would argue the biggest change was probably in my mindset. I had approached my job searching thinking I'm going to have a job within a few months. I'm going to be the best candidate standing out. And I quickly really realized that's not the case. So the mindset that I shifted to is just like any designer approaching a problem, this is a journey. This is going to be a process. I need to be patient. I need to be very strategic and aware in how I invest my time. And along the way, build these relationships, not only with the coaches, but with fellow participants in the program, other people that are new to me and I'm new to them via networking, so that I can find who of all these people I can either help or they can help me and therefore land on the desired outcome.
Totally. Speaking of that, was there any aspect of the program that was surprising to you?
I would argue probably the weekly meetings was surprising in the sense I approached it very formally in the beginning. And I quickly came to realize that these are meetings where people practice a little bit of the concept of vulnerability. They show off their personality. They show off gaps in their understanding. And to me, that was surprising for the program. And it also surprised me how I was able to adapt that same type of behavior, for lack of better words, and practice that in meetings where I will be very candid on progress or lack of progress on certain applications and translating that into helpful posts and the Circle Online program where I was like, and these are wins that I had, but these are also not so great things that have happened to me. And just being able to speak candidly about one's experience was very surprising to me.
That's awesome. The vulnerability definitely to accelerate, to grow in this, because if you don't have that level, then it's also hard to help you in a way.
Yeah, I think it comes down to people having the right level of emotional intelligence to understand that being vulnerable is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's a conduit for building trust with others. Because by you practicing vulnerability, if that's reciprocated, like you've been pretty candid about your experiences and you've been very personable, not follow a strict format in those meetings. I think that's how people connect, to be honest. And I have found it immensely helpful. And I hope that a lot more of the people joining the program will understand that, hey, this is not to you in detriment. Instead, this is actually helping build you up.
Yeah, 100%. That's very interesting to hear. I never even thought about it being any other way, to be honest. Because if it's super formal, how would you help people if they don't trust you? You suggest a lot of crazy stuff that they don't like. So if they don't trust you, how would you get them to do that? Post on LinkedIn, talk about ageism, talk about this, talk about that. If they don't trust you, why would they do any of that? You know what I mean?
I like what Eisenhower said. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. So it's not about following a specific formula, but going through the process, connecting with people. It's that journey that I mentioned earlier in one of the other questions.
Totally. Yeah.
One, you can tell me how many times you've pulled your hair, like when you were raising kids. You were in the same boat as me. Well, you're a few years ahead. I have 2 daughters. You have 2 daughters.
Yeah. How do you feel about your life now compared to, how many weeks? I think it took you like 10 weeks to land that role.
I was in the program actively searching and looking for new opportunities for about 10 weeks.
Let's talk a little bit about your life now. Give us your good update first. Where are we at now compared to 10 weeks ago?
So 10 weeks ago, I was not sure if I was going to land a new position. And I was not even confident enough to find out if I'm going to land a leadership position. That's why I was both targeting individual contributor roles as well as leadership opportunities.
I remember that.
Now, where I'm at is I've accepted an offer at a FinTech company for director of user experience, where I'll have the opportunity to build out the design team, establish better design operations, and foster stronger relationships between different disciplines, which to me is really where I thrive. I worked on exactly doing this for the past 2 years with a medical client. I was very successful in elevating teams as well as individuals to a better standard of design. So to summarize, I would say I'm in a better state, mentally, emotionally, and I'm really excited about the professional challenges that I'll be tackling.
Yeah, amazing. The reason why I was laughing is because it's so typical. You're telling us about all these amazing things. I'm coming from a place where I wasn't even sure if I landed anything. I wasn't sure if I could land a leadership role. I started targeting individual contributor roles. And now, 10 weeks later, I got this director of design roles and then all this. I would say it's better.
But I mean, you know this about me. I hold myself to an impossible standard.
Okay.
Therefore, that could, not often, but it could erode my confidence when a lot of other people are like, you should have a little more faith in yourself and your accomplishments, which I'm like, yes, but I strive for 150% or not 100%.
And even after you accepted the offer, I encourage you to go celebrate. This is good news. Go celebrate. Stop worrying about things.
And yeah, a true celebration will be like a month in when I know like things settle. And quite frankly, as I'm talking to you, the news hasn't settled because
Yeah.
I would argue a lot of high functioning individuals are like this. They don't necessarily celebrate their successes, but they thrive in the process of getting to those successes. And I'm that type of person.
I was just saying that as you were describing it, because I was like, there he is telling about this amazing transformation and he's being like super stoic about it. For everyone who's watching this, it's just Svet style. He is really happy.
I have quiet happiness is what I call it. Very level mind and head in everything that I do.
Amazing. It pays off. It shows actually in your result, right? Because in this market, it's really fast. And it also shows, though, I think even in the program, I did call it out that if you want results, you have to act like Svet. It makes sense. It's not magic. What advice would you give someone who is considering joining the program at the moment, but is a little bit on the fence still? Because after all, it is a considerable investment for most people.
I would say the following. Stay true to what you know about yourself and your needs. Come up with a prioritized list that outlines what is it that you want to accomplish 2 months from now, 4 months from now, 6 months from now, and really position that against all the benefits that the ESV program is bringing to people such as myself and other candidates and participants in the program. And this will paint a picture outside of obviously the financial side of things of how close of a match it will be for you. I think it was a great match for me because, as I mentioned earlier, it has a focus on design. It's a great match for people in product management, engineering. It might not be a good match for you if you're from a nursing background and you want to continue with those things. So stay true to your context and your needs and make sure you choose the program intentionally. And put in the time to make this as effective of a tool for you as it can be.
People oftentimes think about a guarantee. I don't know if that's something that crossed your mind as well before you joined the program. How do you think about this now that you know the program in hindsight?
Yes, it did cross my mind. After the first few weeks, I changed my perspective of this because nothing's guaranteed in life. And I think it's foolish to think that this program will guarantee you a job. I think the way the guarantee is framed and should be framed in one's mind is there's a guarantee that the coaches will improve your skill set, that they'll show you a better way to approach job searching. And they're there to hold your hand, but ultimately, when it comes to you batting in front of thousands of people, you're the one that's going to make the swing. Taking the analogy down to a more pragmatic level, you have to be in charge of practicing your delivery, polishing your documents, making the connections, and basically showing up to every single conversation that you have, whether that's a digital conversation or a real-time conversation with hiring managers, recruiters, and peers. Absolutely.
Taking accountability for your own part of the equation is definitely important. In hindsight, having gone through the program, having made the investment, knowing what you know now, was the investment a good investment?
Yeah, 100%, because I don't see the investment as a one-off. What I mean by that is all the tools, the tactics that you learn, these are things that are not going away. These are things that you learn that you can apply to future job searches. You can take the immense library of PDFs provided to participants in the program and leverage these for the future. And also, you have built some strong connections. Hopefully, you're connecting with the coaches on LinkedIn, you're connecting with fellow members in the program. These relationships are going to go away. It's up to you to make sure they continue to blossom and develop into long-term relationships. What's going away is, once you graduate, is obviously the professional advice, the coaching. However, if you do good enough of a job in your participation and you're showing up within the program itself by attending the weekly meetings, by really making the best use of your one-on-one sessions, I would argue that you'll be in a very good place. The coaching will shape your skill set to a new level where maybe you need just coaching on some negotiation tactics. But definitely for me, it was worth it because I've learned the tools. I can share my learnings with others, and I can apply all these new skills, tactics, resources to whatever the future brings for me.
Yeah, for any other future job searches. Unless the market changes again dramatically. In that case, we need a refresher.
And the Martians come in little UFOs and there are no more jobs for us, then we have to adapt to working on a red planet.
You mentioned negotiation. Talk to me a little bit about that negotiation piece.
Sure. Negotiation is very contextual. It's contextual to who you're dealing with in terms of who's on the opposite side of the table, what are the terms, what's the framing. There's many resources out there, but ultimately the negotiation takes a very soft touch to really understand people for people, not as an opponent that you're fighting a war with. And it's got to be collaborative. And
Yeah.
I think you and I, when we discussed the negotiation for my offer, that's really how it helped. Several strategies and that I found useful. This is in retrospect analyzing our approach is we didn't do the nibble technique, asking for one more thing. We used something else, which is offering a creative approach to meeting my needs, but at the same time being fair to the other party, which is putting the onus on the person on the other side, for the lack of better words, to find out if there are solutions to meet the needs. And I would argue for negotiation in general, given this contextuality, it's really helpful to have a coach because it's a lifelong skill that you need to learn, keep polishing and keep practicing.
Yeah, 100%. A negotiation piece is so important because once you've already accepted, there's very little that you can then change. So I always want to make sure that people are happy with it. It's all aligned and we leave very little or nothing on the table. And that is the piece where I'm going to be very flexible because they need last minute help. I think the second follow-up conversation maybe where you drop off your daughter and then after that you called me and I was on the way to drop off my daughter or something and we're just like on the phone hashing things out.
Yeah, I think we had a 15-minute conversation. Then I had to do drop off and we're just the back and forth here, which I think it worked because once you see things in text, it's more concrete.
Totally.
In the sense that you can always refer back to it as notes.
All right, Svet. Thank you so much for doing this, but also I just want to take a moment to say thank you to you for being such an amazing person to work with. I think you called me the Jedi, actually. I like that.
The Jedi, I'm Padawan, the student.
I'm tremendously grateful for you joining our program, for allowing us to help you, to support you along this journey. That's really to see people crushing it and giving it their all. You being part of the community like no others, not just giving it your all to yourself, but also to the others. You might as well have been like my assistant coach or something in the program. The level of commitment and resources you've put in there. I'm just really grateful for having you in the program.
Yeah, and I'm saying back at you, and when I say you, it's you, Megan, John, Marianne, and am I missing anybody? Maybe
Now, that's a team of experts. But before that, you also mentioned Nate and Raina.
and Rain, they're part of the
Yeah.
team, but
Uh,
just
yeah.
keeping it human, first of all, keeping it personable, and keeping it, if I dare say, fun.
Yes, please. I love it.
We'll definitely pick your brain and fucking continue doing something in that capacity with what it's UA as VP program or something related. Because I'm constantly learning